responsibility of the believer is through the renewed mind to approve God's will. This is repeat. But I think it's important for this context. Approve doesn't mean that God needs me to say yes before he goes through with something. What it does mean is the word actually describes one who thoroughly examines an item and finds it to be authentic. I'd like to suggest to you that any interpretation of Scripture that differs from the standard Jesus set needs to be brought into question. Don't approve it. Why? Because the standard is Jesus. It's common now. It is different than 5-10 years ago, where most everywhere I go, regardless. I mean, I'll do a Lutheran conference, I'll do United Methodist Church, I do all these various places that not too many years ago there was no such thing as miracles, as signs of wonders, as healing, as deliverance. Massive conversions, none of those things existed in those arenas at that time, but now they do. And I'm so thankful. But I'm thankful, but I'm not satisfied. So here's what I want to address. Every one of us who have prayed for the sick have had breakthrough and have had heartache. And what happens is we, in teaching healing to people, for example, it is assumed, and we teach it, I don't, but commonly in these circles now that embrace healing for today, it is commonly taught that not everyone you pray for will be healed. Why? Why do we teach that? Because that's our experience. If we did that with the subject of sin, we would actually teach people that a certain measure of sin is okay and it's to be expected. We don't teach our experience when it comes to sin. Everybody in this room has sinned. But we don't teach that. We teach what the Word says. Because that's the reality that we contend for. In fact, the first message in this series had everything in the world to do with that one thing. Even so, consider yourself dead to sin. Approach your own life as it's impossible for me to sin. It's not in my appetite. It's not a part of who I am. I have been changed. It's not that I can't sin. It's just that I can't do it out of the old nature because that nature's been dealt with. So if I'm not going to teach out of my experience in the realm of sin, that I equally owe you instruction not out of my experience when it comes to ministering to the sick. Now, the only people I know that have never had any disappointment in praying for the sick are those who don't pray for the sick. They're batting 1,000. And they have a lot of advice. I know painfully, as most of you, what it is to swing and miss, what it is to try our very best and not get the breakthrough. But that never becomes the place where we develop theology. What happens, what do we do there? Let me tell you something. Out of the goodness of God, one of the core values, I believe, in the Scripture. Personally, I think it's the cornerstone of all theology, is the goodness of God. Everything comes from that. He is as good as he is holy. That from that cornerstone of the goodness of God, he has given us a promise out of Romans 8, verse 28. All things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Why is that verse in there? That verse wouldn't even be needed if every time you made a decree or prayed or did your best, everything worked out perfectly. Because the Lord knows we are in process. But you don't build theology to enhance a process that emphasizes our imperfection. The theology is formed around Christ. He remains the message. He remains the standard. I may not do it well, but it's the only job I have. There is no other purpose for my life. My life has no other purpose than to follow him and to make him known. No other purpose. There's no other reason. There is no plan B. There's only one. I have been assigned by God to represent Jesus in the world. He said, as the Father sent me, I send you. So we have simplified the entire focus and destiny of our life down to the one thing. I must be able to represent Christ in a given situation. Now, I do it better today than I did 20 years ago. I actually do it better than I did 5 years ago. But it's not near what it's going to be. Put it that way.